Some years ago, I was standing on the Google campus in Mountain View, and I was thinking, cracking the coding interview is all about grinding lead code. Turns out, I couldn't be more wrong. I have spoken to the most skilled engineers at Google and read actually through their internal documentation, and the signal is all the same. Okay, maybe it was not 100 engineers, but I needed a title for the CTR, okay? But I promise you will get the same value out of it. So most people think when I just pass the coding interview, I will get hired. But actually, that's not what Google is looking for. Google is looking for somebody to trust. To trust somebody when the production line is down at 2 AM in the night. And you need to fix it. That's actually a very rough summary between the distance, what they are actually looking for, and what people think they are looking for. And for Google applications, the acceptance rate is lower than 1%. That makes it harder to get into Google than into Harvard. But how can you still get in? That's what we are going to discover in the next few minutes. So just for a moment, picture the situation. You're in a whiteboard room. There's one marker and one interviewer who's looking at you or staring at you. And the common belief is that if I just code fast enough and precise enough, I win. And what do? You just hammer out your syntax skills like a caffeinated raccoon. But as soon as you're 5 lines in, you realize that your approach is trash and you erase everything like you are in high school. And meanwhile, the interviewer is just silently watching, taking notes and judging. And therefore you think, I screwed this. But here comes the interesting message. When I was talking to the Google engineers, nobody was talking about the rare speed of solving a coding interview. What they actually mentioned was 3 points basically. First, did they restate the problem? Second, do they adapt when plan A breaks? And third, do they test edge cases without being asked? That's basically it. That's the real scorecard. So basically you can grind as many lead cause problems as you want. If you cannot explain the process that you are coding while the interview is ongoing, you are screwed. You're invisible. And research actually backs this. Structured interviews with rubrics, like Google uses, predict job performance way better than free-form chats. Therefore, the hard part is not actually solving the puzzle. While this is actually also very important still, you need to solve the puzzle. But the hard part for most engineers are actually 3 things. It's first being observed. It feels very strange if you're not used to it. Second, to think out loud, because most of the time we like to stay in our box and think for ourselves. But just adapt to it and learn to self-talk a bit. You're not a psychopath, but still it would be useful in this case. And you need to make trade-offs under the clock. So in most cases, you don't have the time to solve the puzzle perfectly. You need to leave out things, you need to adapt, okay? And I know talking while you're programming feels so strange. It feels like you are at a stand-up comedy at a funeral, but it's necessary. And on the other side, me in my first interview, for example, I was doing the complete contrary. I was actually, it was a complete catastrophe. So I was talking too much. I mean, you probably realized I'm now talking to you. So yes, I like talking sometimes, but I talked so much that actually I forgot how to solve the puzzle. And that's way worse. But that's not a story. Just write it in the comments if you want the full story, but not today, not now. So to summarize it, thinking and coding at the same time is underrated and needs to be trained in advance. And it's actually a skill which you normally don't practice and normally don't need. But sometimes for pair programming, for example, it isn't too bad. And I actually realized some of my colleagues are pretty well trained in this. Why is that? And here's the kicker. AI isn't your enemy here. Studies show that AI can help you speed up to program. But if you let it code too much, you are training the wrong muscle. And therefore use AI as your tool or as a coach. Set timers, inject fake interview interruptions, and grade yourself. Don't let it be your crutch. Train this for 2 weeks and I assume your brain will catch up what your mind is actually thinking. Bad news first, there is no 100% guarantee to pass. I think that's clear, but you can increase your chances to pass. And how do we do that? Let's break it down. Interviews are noisy. Wrong mood, bad chemistry, or the interviewer just had too much coffee. It happens. But there is the good news. Here are things you can control, and that's what you should focus on. So stack the deck in your favor. So imagine yourself 2 weeks from now and you walk into that interview room and you do, instead of panicking, you restate the problem out loud. Clear, structured and confident. Like we just talked about. Try to get into an already familiar path or algorithm that you have trained for. And then you outline the brute force first, then you adapt your approach to optimize it. And then you test the weird cases. Empty input, duplicates and negatives. And here comes the crucial part, before they even ask. And you will see that the interviewer leans back and thinks, I could work with this person. This person knows how to think. And that's basically all you want to communicate in the end. But don't let us stop here. Become actionable instead. So very clear steps what to do in the next few weeks. Already, let's commit to 2 repetitions per day. 1 25-minute coding mock in the morning and 1 at night or in the evening. Second, talk every line. Don't code in silence. Train your brain to keep up with your coding. Talk with yourself, even if it feels a bit crazy. And third, very important, simulate the stress. Camera on, and maybe even a friend could be watching you, or do it over FaceTime, whatever comes to your mind. Because this is where most candidates break. Do this for 14 days straight. And if this video helped you, make sure to smash that like button. It helps me and helps other poor CS majors in the same situation before they bomb their on-site. And actually there's one very sneaky hint Google has told me before I left their office. And I unfortunately cannot tell you, but I will publish it in this week Alex Tech Insider, my newsletter that you can subscribe. The link is down below. Sign up, it's short, it's spicy, but it may save your butt. And by the way, my next video will be about the topic why I traveled 18,826 kilometers just to ask one question about coding interviews. Subscribe if you don't want to miss it. Okay, happy coding, peace out, and see you in the next video.
You think that this life's made for a king.